Who's that? Commander Claw. Who's bad? Commander Claw.
Thank you for clicking on this video. I am your host, Commander Claw. This is the series called Breaking Brews, where I bring you 5 cards for different themes working with this commander. And I believe this video is going to shed light on different things you can do within your 99 that other videos may not have shared with you. And if you're new to Magic, buckle up. This card is going to teach you some new mechanics that you probably missed from previous sets. Okay, so buckle up. Let's talk about Ketramose the New Dawn. For 1, white and black, 4/4 body. He is a legendary creature that is a god. Gods are usually indestructible in this MTG universe. He also has Menace and Lifelink. So that means Menace, he has to be blocked by at least 2 creatures. Lifelink, that means whenever he deals combat damage, you gain life. So he is awesome. He's literally a indestructible permanent. When is able to attack, he can deal commander damage and gain life. So his next ability says Ketramose can't attack or block unless there are 7 or more cards in exile. Well, guess what? With this theme, or actually the main theme that players are pushing, you will have that requirement solved. 7 cards is not a lie. Also, whenever 1 or more cards are put into exile from graveyards or from battlefield during your turn, you draw a card and lose 1 life. So he is a card advantage for your flicker effects on your turn, or blink effects on your turn, or removing targeted cards or libraries on your turn. So, draw a card and lose 1 life. It's not a bad payoff. Really good payoff, honestly. And this can be pretty explosive with the right combination of cards. Let's start talking about the graveyard first. All right, so we're going to be exiling cards from graveyards. We got the Relic of Progenitus for 1. Oh, Progenitus. Oh, you know who that is? It is that Uborg colored dragon that's like super faded in the background with all those Hydra heads. And it's literally on the Relic. I just now noticed that. Cool, cool. Anyway, this is an artifact. Target player exiles a card from his or her graveyard. So whenever you do that on your turn and Ketramose is out on the battlefield, you'll be able to lose 1 life and draw a card. Not a bad payoff. Otherwise, tap 1, exile Relic or Progenitus, exile all cards from all graveyards to draw a card. Good graveyard hate. I think I need to talk about how good graveyard hate is. Because if you haven't played a lot of games of Magic, players utilize their graveyard to recur spells all the time, and it's usually game-ending pieces or the missing piece for a combo, and they literally self-milled on purpose to put cards in their graveyard in order to speed up the infinite combo process or the game-winning process. And if you get rid of their graveyard, oh well, cards are gone. That opportunity is gone. I think there's only really 1 card that you can cast that brings cards back from the exile zone into your hand. I know there's only 1 card. It's a black tutor. Anyways, moving on to Withered Wretch. For 2 black is a zombie cleric for a 2/2 body. Tap 1, exile target card from a graveyard. This is abusive. This is really abusive. Why? Because for each instance of 1, you're drawing 1 card and you're losing 1 life and you're exiling a card from a graveyard. That's why this is powerful. So if you got 5 mana available and a player's got 5 cards in their graveyard, you can exile all 5 of those cards and draw 5 cards with Ketramose on the battlefield with this. Crazy powerful, crazy good card. Moving on to blink effects, and hang on with me because my favorite card is going to be a card that you're going to add Ketramose in the 99 versus as a commander. So we got these flicker spells, blink effects that make Ketramose very powerful in order for you to draw a card and lose 1 life. That is card advantage. Let's talk about teleportation circle right here on the left-hand side. For 3 and a white, it's an enchantment. So at the beginning of your end step, exile up to 1 target artifact or creature you control, then return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control. Yes, that is super good because it just triggers at the end of your end step. It's a free blink effect. Free, free, free. It's not free, but it's not free to cast, but repeated value. That's where this card is good. Next up, we have Ephemerate, a staple. For 1 white, instant. Exile target creature you control, then return to the battlefield under its own control. Cool. But this is where it shines. It has rebound. If you cast a spell from your hand, exile it as it resolves. At the beginning of your next upkeep, you may cast this card from exile without paying its mana cost. Literally, it copies itself, but you get it on the next turn. So it's like 2 blink effects for 1 mana. Super cheap, super great. You get to be able to draw 2 cards and lose 2 life off of 1 mana. If you have Ketramose on the battlefield, you're just in the positive on value here. Moving on to my favorite card, especially it is in the realm of zombies. Let's talk about it. So, Varina Lich Queen. Zombies here. If you're new to Magic, Varina is actually an old card, but she's super cool because she's Esper Zombies. For 1 white, black, and a blue, 4/4 body zombie wizard. Whenever you attack with 1 or more zombies, draw that many cards, then discard that many cards, you gain that much life. Tap 2, exile 2 cards from your graveyard. Create a tap 2/2 black zombie creature token. So, when paired with Ketramose, you literally have a zombie creating engine. Zombies are very difficult to deal with because they come back often, quicker. They're used for sack fodder. Then she is able to gain life. Like, she's very abusive. And Ketramose is indestructible, so you literally have this card advantage trigger always available unless one of your opponents decide to be a hater and exile target creature, which they should. Can't say they're not. So you might be wondering, you have Ketramose as a commander, or even Varina Lich Queen as a commander. You need to put cards in player's graveyard. But you may not have blue, but Varina does have blue. Mesmeric Orb is a great card. For 2 mana, it's an artifact. Whenever a permanent becomes untapped, that permanent's controller mills a card. Trust me, you want to play this on turns when players are starting to cast stuff. So that's 5 CMC spells. That is 5 lands they tapped, and they got to mill the top 5 cards of their library before they even start their turn. That gets ugly real quick. Players don't like this card. If you're new to Magic, Mesmeric Orb is very powerful. It's a great self-mill and mill effect. Auto include. Moving up to next slide is going to be cards with super synergy. I think they went unnoticed, and I don't know why. They're not even on the EDH rec, so let's talk about them. First up, we have is Lion Sash for 1 and a white. It's a 1/1 artifact creature equipment cat. Okay, when you see these artifact creatures, equipment cats, they're both a artifact, equipment, and a creature. But when you cast them, they are a artifact creature on the battlefield, so they can block, they can attack, and they can be destroyed. Okay. Anyways, tap 1 white, exile target card from a graveyard. We want to do that, right? With Ketramose. Okay, we do that on our turn. If it was a permanent card, put a +1/+1 counter on Lion Sash. So every card that you mill that's a permanent, you boost the power of Lion Sash. How come nobody was talking about that? Equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each +1/+1 counter on Lion Sash. So not only does it boost the power of the Lion Sash as an artifact creature, if you equip it to Ketramose, he becomes a +1/+1 for how many +1/+1 counters on him, and he's got menace and lifelink. You just need to equip it to him, and that costs 2, which is the reconfigure ability. Let's win. Next up, we got Urborg Scavengers. Okay, deal with me here. For 2 black, 2/2 body, creature spirit. Whenever he attacks, or actually whenever he enters the battlefield or attacks, exile target card from a graveyard. So that's 2 type of triggers. On ETB, when you cast him for 3 mana, then when he attacks, if he has haste, it's all on the same turn. Most likely not, but the next following turn on your combat phase, you get to exile another card. So when Ketramose is on there, he ETBs, you draw a card, lose 1 life. He attacks, you draw a card and lose a life. You're getting card advantage in black and white fast, efficiently. Next up, he says, Urborg Scavengers has flying as long as the card exiled with it has flying. The same is true for first strike, double strike, death touch, haste, hexproof, and indestructible, lifelink, menace, reach, trample, vigilance. That's a lot to say. So literally, he becomes a clone of all the creatures with keyword abilities that it exiles. Not a bad creature. And he gets stronger because you get to put +1/+1 counters on Herborg Scavengers every time you do this. He's also a good card for Ishin. Two scavengers as one, not two scavengers as one, two heavens as one. A Mardu commander that has a great combat trigger. Another video, another day. Yeah. Moving on to another combination of cards that I don't think has been talked about enough. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about finality counters. Finality counters are counters that allow you to reanimate creatures from a graveyard and put a finality counter on it, and when that creature dies, it gets exiled. Okay? Super easy to do, but why not do it multiple times? That's where you can shine with Ketramose and bring back powerful creatures because you're going to be milling yourself anyways or milling your opponent's creatures. Let's talk about From the Rubble. For 4, 2 white, it's enchantment. As From the Rubble enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. You can go with a creature tribal theme with Ketramose. You know, Phyrexian creatures, human soldiers, angels, demons. I don't know, your choice. At the beginning of your end step, return target creature card of the chosen type from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it. If a creature with a finality counter on it would die, exile it instead. Cool. The reason why this is good, because when that creature leaves with a finality counter on it, it is exiled, which triggers Ketramose. So you got like +2 in a way where you reanimated a creature. Then when it gets exiled because it had a finality counter on it, you get to draw a card and lose 1 life. And with From the Rubble, you're gonna do it each instep. Only on your instep, honestly. Next up, we got Meathook Massacre the Second. For double X, 4 black, legendary enchantment. When it enters, each player sacrifices X creatures, where X is how much you paid into it. So if you paid 4, each player sacrifices 4 creatures. Whenever a creature you control dies, you may pay 3 life. If you do, return that card under your control with a finality counter on it. So, whatever creature that you had to sacrifice, you could bring it back to life if you pay 3 life with a finality counter on it. And like I said before, finality counters, when that creature dies again, it gets exiled. So it's another payoff with Ketramose on the battlefield. This is where it gets nasty. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, they may pay 3 life. If they don't, return that card under your control with a finality counter on it. What? So you are literally reanimating your creatures. You're draining life from your opponents. You're making your opponent sacrifice creatures. And you could possibly take control of those creatures. And when those creatures leave the battlefield with finality counters, you get to draw cards, all because of Ketramose and Meathook Massacre. I don't see why you cannot add this card in your deck. Let's talk about other cards that you can put in the 99. Sorry, I meant to say putting Ketramose in the 99 of Kroxa and Kunoros. I don't know why I rolled the R on that, but it makes sense to me. Kunoros. Kroxa and Kunoros for 3 in Mardu colors, red, white, and black. This 6/6 body. Woo! Elder Giant Dog legendary creature with Vigilance, Menace, Lifelink. Whenever a Kroxa and Kunoros enters the battlefield or attacks, you may exile 5 cards from your graveyard. When you do, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. This is the escape ability. This works with Ketramose because whenever a card gets exiled from your graveyard, you get to draw a card and lose a life. So why not get a payoff for using the escape ability? Kroxa and Kunoros are very powerful commanders. I mean, god dang, dude. Like, dude, 6/6 Vigilance, Menace, Lifelink. Come on. What that is crazy. That's crazy. Anyway, if you never played against that commander, it's gonna be tough to destroy. I've seen players add a bunch of protection spells on it and it doesn't tap to attack and they gain life and you need at least 2 blockers. Like, it's very destructive. There's so many cool commanders out here that are not talked about enough. This is one of them. Next up, we have the Grim Captain's Locker. For 3 and a black, legendary artifact has Surveil 1. Tap it, Surveil 1. Look at the top card of your library. You may put it into your graveyard. We want to do that with Ketramose. Put cards in our graveyard and exile them, right? So you got to be able to put cards in it. The reason why I put this card in this deck or in this video is because it has the escape ability. It says tap until end of turn. Each creature card in your graveyard gains escape. Tap 4 mana, exile 4 other cards from your graveyard, which can help you with Ketramose because you want to exile cards from your graveyards in order to draw cards and lose 1 life. But hey, there might be a creature that you want to reanimate and be very powerful and destroy your opponents. Moving on to the last little combination of cards that I have for you that I think is very, very cool. So we got to talk about Flicker Wisp here. Flicker Wisp is a staple for a 1 and 2 white, 3/1 elemental flying. This is one of the most popular played Flicker cards ever. It's strong, right? It enters the battlefield, exile another target permanent, return that card to the battlefield under zone of control at the beginning of the next end step. There's so many infinite loops with this card. You can Google them, YouTube them yourself, but this guy is a staple. Okay. The reason why I brought him up is because I really wanted to share the card Mirror of Life Trapping. For so long, I've been looking on ways to use this card. I got in what was it, the Dungeons and Dragons realm, I think, set, and it was confusing when you read it. So I always try to put it in videos to share how awkwardly good this card can be. For 4 mana, Mirror of Life Trapping says, whenever a creature enters the battlefield, if it was cast, exile it. Then return all other permanent cards exiled with Mirror of Life Trapping to the battlefield under their owner's control. Okay. The most important thing you need to know is this allows you to cast the card with an ETB trigger twice. So this is how it goes. We have Flicker Wisp, right? And we have Mirror of Life trapping on the battlefield. When you cast Flicker Wisp, its ETB ability goes on the stack and it goes off. Okay, you exile another target creature, return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. However, Flicker Wisp goes into exile. All right, so now it's in exile, and let's say you pass the turn. Your opponent decides to cast a creature card. That creature card goes into exile, but Flicker Wisp comes into play, triggering its ETB ability again because it's entering the battlefield. That is nasty. It almost gives a 2-for-1 on ETBs for you as a player, but also for your opponents. That's why I said it's awkwardly good. Now, if you plan on using it, you're going to plan on using it to its advantage. Your opponents can too, but they're not expecting you to play this card. So, with Ketramose on the battlefield, Flicker Wisp, and Mirror of Life Trapping, you're able to draw 2 cards, lose 2 life, but don't forget Flicker Wisp can target any permanent. That's why that card's powerful. Moving on to the summary. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Why not? So I put this video out, I would say like a week and a half or 2 weeks after the Aetherdrift set has been released. And this is a $45 card. Good reason why, because I think it's pretty unique. Exiling cards out of your graveyard and getting some kind of payoff for it. Very good payoff. Drawing cards. Drawing cards is good. But also it's an indestructible commander with menace and lifelink. Ugh. And it only costs 3 CMC. You get to play. You get to play. You get to play. You get to play your commander and do what it does best. That's why it's a $45 card. Otherwise, hey, thank you for watching the video. I'm Commander Claw. Feel free to hit the notification button or the subscribe button so we can continue sharing you videos. And I mean we, as in I'm sharing videos with you. Peace.